Hi, Vincent.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Ah,
Yes, I can
your
hear
audio
you.
is not very good. Your it's bitty and breaking up.
It's
So maybe,
okay, hold on.
sorry, it's not getting any better.
Hello?
Yes, that's much better.
I don't think you want to watch that Mormon Satan temple documentary, do you?
Not really, because I did kind of watch a bit of it on my own, and I read his um wiki
Rational. I saw that.
rational wiki.
I didn't know yeah, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't, it's like, I know, fine, he's kind of like crazy, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a point. But, um,
Well, the thing is, I mean,
unfortunately,
he's quite a good speaker, so I guess that would kind of get people's attention. He has this long white beard and he looks really distinguished and he's a good speaker. But apart from that, you know, the first 10 minutes, it's like, hey, wait a minute. What's this about? What were you doing as a Druid? And now you're a Mormon, and before that you were Catholic. Hold on a minute, you know what's happening here? And he never stopped. He just sort of went blah 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 blah. And you think, well, I guess he's one of those religious nuts who, go from religion to religion and never settle down. And I guess he went from religion to religion in order to create his own cult. And now he's got a YouTube channel, I think, so that's my impression of him.
yeah, just so we know his name, how do you pronounce his name? Hold on, let me look at it.
It sounds Jewish.
Schnoebelen. Schnoebelen. Bill Schnoebelen. Schnoebelen. Um, if you want to look it up, Mormonism's Temple of Doom, part 1 and 2, is the documentary. But
Is that
just
from
want
his channel?
no,
The
I
one
don't
that you
think that's
showed
his
me.
channel. But there's something to what he's saying. I'm not, like, okay, Fritz Springmeier, my blog, bewiseserpents.blogspot.com. It slightly, well, it started out. What got me started was Fritz Springmeier, right? Now, first of all, I'm a little worried about some of his scholarship. But even if I'm not, the thing is that I went further than him and I found a lot of evidence of what he said and I backed it up because, the thing is that Fritz Springmeier is crazy. Okay, Fritz Springmeier is insane in that, he had this fucking bitch named Cisco Wheeler who was pretending, or I don't know if she was pretending. She was pretending to be some kind of satanically abused, not pretending. I don't want to say she was pretending because maybe she really was. I forget if she said it was CIA or if it was her parents or who knows who she said it was. But, supposedly her personality was fractured into 10,000 times so that and all this other kind of stuff. And she had no heart because so that Jesus couldn't get into her heart because she believed she didn't have a heart. And he was a deprogrammer. He became a deprogrammer and kind of went all around the country looking for satanic abuse victims to deprogram. Let's look her up, Cisco Wheeler.
Hmm.
Hold on, Cisco Wheeler. Cisco Wheeler and Fritz Springmeier. Ooh, okay. They know not what they do. Okay, this is his book on an illustrated guide to monarch programming mind control by Fritz Springmeier. But let me see, Cisco Wheeler and Fritz Springmeier. Okay, there's a video on it. Anyway, this Cisco Wheeler, I mean, it is like, being a satanic deprogrammer and, saying people's, psyche has been fractured 10,000 times.
Sorry, can you say who this person is? What, Cisco Wheeler? Sorry, why are you?
Cisco Wheeler is a supposed mind control victim, a supposed MK Ultra Illuminati mind control victim that was saved by Fritz Springmeier.
Is he anything to do with this William? What's his name?
No, no, Fritz Springmeier is a different person. I brought him up because Fritz Springmeier is similar in that he's crazy, but that doesn't mean that what he was saying was wrong, because I did find evidence of what he said. I put down what he said. Ooh, genetics and dissociative abilities. That I'm interested in. Oh, selection and preparation of the victim. Site of torture of children. To be honest, sometimes I wonder if fucking Dr. Martha Welch, who did that shit to me, works for the fucking CIA, to be honest with you. I
Well, you
mean,
said other people other than me said that about her.
yes, other people have mentioned to me that people have said to me that the government was interested in autism and the special abilities that autistic people have, and but I know a lot of it was to do with fucking a lot of it had to do with fucking mothers, being angry that their autistic children didn't want to be touched by them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and we already discussed this, that, that's kind of like, narcissistic, or I don't know, that, oh God, my child has rejected me. And so let me torment it, until it accept. How is your child going to accept you if you put it in this extremely uncomfortable position? Um, and the thing is that it's done to
Well, it's
autistic.
basically you torture the child until the child realizes that it has to be nice to you, and then you stop hurting it. I mean, it really is as simple as that, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the thing is that especially for autistic children, that's extremely traumatizing because they don't like social interaction, and so to get all up in their face like that, and
Would traumatize.
what?
Well, it would traumatize them, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it was traumatizing to me even as a child without autism, or at least not severe autism. It was traumatizing, and it didn't bring me any closer to my mother, I don't think. And
Well, I think the only thing that would, bring you two closer to each other is to, well, talk about it. I
yeah, but
mean,
I don't think I just necessarily had like any kind of attachment disorder with my mother. I don't
well,
think
I
I
think
just.
I think that the problem is more with your mother, isn't it? I mean, she was the one with the drink and drug problem. So I think you might have to make allowances for that if she was a bit crazy, because, well, I mean, yeah, she was a bit crazy because of a drink and a drug problem. And if you made him allowances for that, maybe you'll stop hating her so much. And
Well,
also, what you
you
said
didn't
to
have
me
to
that,
go about it that way. I mean, it's just, who said you have to, like, who goes about it that way? I mean, I don't know who on
well,
earth
she
goes.
didn't know. I mean, as well as I'm sure she thought, well, spending more money on that kid, and she seems, we're taking her to we're taking our son to a child psychologist. That's taking trouble over them, isn't it? And and now she's this sort of big shot psychologist. So I guess we weren't wrong. We took our kids, our sons, to this big shot psychologist. What's the problem? It's not like, we took him to some kind of witch doctor.
Well, she was a
I'm
witch
trying to be the
doctor.
devil advocate. Okay, I'm being your mother's advocate.
It was like a witch doctor. I mean, this was like, I mean,
Okay, perhaps it was, but the thing is, she can defend herself by saying she tried. She went out of her way and, you know, it didn't work.
yeah, well, I mean, I just think that that was very inappropriate and, really didn't make sense and um was just a really nonsensical way of dealing with the situation. And also, I think it's a personality thing. It's like, it's just this ownership of the child in that.
Well, yes,
It
I mean, to a certain
Okay,
extent,
but my brother wasn't
parents
even
do feel they own their
verbal.
children.
My brother wasn't
Pardon?
even verbal. He was fucking mentally retarded. Like, the idea that something like this would snap him out of that is just absurd.
Well, I suppose she wanted to feel she tried everything. I don't know. Your father went along with it. I don't know. But you know my views on this sort of thing. I mean, I don't think it's fair to ruin the childhoods of the normal, well, members of the litter, shall we say. No, it's not a litter. Yeah, I think a litter is when you have, all of them at the same time. Okay, I mean, I'm just saying it's not a good idea to waste resources on autistic offspring. I mean, if they're severely disabled, I'd have to let them go. And I know I got into trouble for just saying that, but I mean, nothing has happened between when I said it and now to make me change my mind. But you were kind of, in two minds about it, saying perhaps I was being a bit too harsh, even though you were the victim. I mean, can you imagine yourself, in that situation? Okay, I mean, you talk about, oh well, we're gonna, use all these artificial wombs, and okay, let's say you and your partner use an artificial womb, and it emerges autistic. What are you gonna do?
Well, not that.
Okay, so all right. So I mean that's not very eugenic, is it?
What's not? You mean what?
Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, it emerges like your elder brother, your hypothetical um, artificial womb birthed offspring.
Oh, what would I do?
Yes.
Oh, well, I would just. I mean, at this point, I would notice the child was autistic, and know that social interaction is very hurtful. And I wouldn't do that. I would
Okay.
probably prefer to try something like medication. Or now, they're doing fecal transplants now for autistics, and it's helping them. Martha Welch does um, research on the correlation between gut bacteria and autism and mental disorders. It's a big new.
Sorry, she does that too, Martha Welch.
Yeah,
She
she does.
does that.
She gets government grants to research gut bacteria and mental health. Yes.
Okay, so have you decided whether she's kosher or a charlatan? Have you decided yet?
Well, I think that she is a doctor. She is a medical doctor. So obviously she had to go through all that, and she has government grants, so she can't be a charlatan because the government is paying her, to do these.
Okay, so you take your autistic kid, your hypothetical um, autistic kid, to her. You do that.
One more time?
If you had a son like your brother, you take her to Martha Welch.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were thinking of it because he gets a grant
No,
and she's
I'm
doing
just
research
saying.
and
No. We were talking about what would I do, and I said fecal transplant or medication. At this point, we know more about fecal transplant. Um, helping autistic people.
okay, so you would take your hypothetical this autistic son to this woman who treated you.
I would take her. I would take him to someone else to get. She didn't invent gut bacteria and autism connection. I mean, I don't think she invented that. I think she's studying it. I don't think it's her. Um, I don't think it's her development.
Okay, okay, this seems. I think a lot of mental illness is caused by um, bad parenting
Well, no,
and
autism.
an unstable childhood, and all
That's
kinds
not
of things.
autism. Autism is not caused by unstable childhood.
Okay. I guess I was really talking about difficult people, but no. I agree. Autism is not caused by. Uh, I don't know. I mean, what is it caused by anyway? I mean, some people are just born disabled, mentally deficient, right? I don't know what it is. I mean, um, or children can get a high fever and kind of lose their IQ or something. I don't quite know how it works, but
Yes, high fever. These things can cause that. But no, I mean, my brother was so severely autistic that it had to have been congenital. I mean, now we know that autism is congenital. That children are born autistic; they don't become autistic. Though at the time in the 80s, it was considered, they called it refrigerator mother, meaning that the mother was cold to the baby, and so the baby detached. You know, which I mean, that's ridiculous. That you know, I mean, how fucking detached can
people can. I think people can go either way. They can have a cold mother, but be kind of compensate for it by being very um, voluble and very talkative, very open, and um, and physically demonstrative because they kind of want to react against what they thought was bad for them. It's sort of like this person I know who said, "Well, my father's an alcoholic, so I'll be an alcoholic." But then I equally know people it was that I hated my my father for being drunk, and so I'm not going to touch a drop of it. So you really don't know which way people are going to go.
Yeah, people get into all different kinds of nonsense.
Yeah, I mean it just sort of kind of takes one bad decision to lead them into you know the wrong path, a very long detour from the straight path.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am feeling, I went to therapy today, and this ketamine treatment has really done something for me. And I'm less angry, but I'm not going to just, you know, uh, well, I mean, that wasn't the extent of it. I mean, my parents, the thing, I was talking to him today, and, the fact is of the matter that I made my parents very unhappy. And, you know, that doesn't make me happy. That doesn't make me feel good that I made them feel bad. that doesn't like that. It's like, most people don't want to be in a room with someone if you're bothering them. Most people, if you go somewhere and you notice that people are pestered by you, you leave. And, because you don't want to be the source of someone else's uh, uncomfort or displeasure. And so, you know, um, and the fact of the matter is that there was a lot of things that went into that, and that they didn't like each other. So, the product of their marriage was obviously not going to be received very well. And by the time I was born, their relationship was already on the way out. And nobody wants a baby when you're on the out with your husband. And they already had an autistic baby. And, I think that it was just really unfortunate that they just didn't want, they didn't want children. And, it's like, and sometimes they did try to hide it, but it did become apparent, and things that they would say or do, that this was just a very unfortunate pairing of people, and that they were not very appreciative that I was there. And I
But they
know a
went on
lot.
to have more children.
She did. She had more. My father didn't, but she had more children. But
Oh, so you are your father's only child.
no, I have an autistic. My autistic brother is my father's child too. It's just that, it's, if I could still go back in time, even though I'm feeling better, and tell them not to do it, I would do that. I would say this is just a horrible pairing. There's no reason to do this, and you're just going to have sick children. So just don't do it, and you're not going to love them. So just don't do it. And
Well, the thing is, yeah, okay. I mean, you can give general advice like, well, don't enter into marriage lightly, unadvisedly, frivolously. Um, so that I think most people are kind of aware of, though perhaps some people in practice ignore it. But anyway, it's well, you can't turn back time. You have been produced, and it's up to you to make the best of your life. And I
well,
mean, you
yes,
do
but
say that because of your mother's choice of religion, you actually did much better academically than other people who came from happier childhoods and more stable families.
yes, but I mean, it's just, well, the thing is, I know there's nothing I can do about it, but you know, the thing is that, oh my god, what the fuck? Um, um, I know there's nothing that I can do about it, and you just have to kind of make the best out of it. But you can also,
Yes.
prevent it from happening to anyone else. You can just, you can prevent this from happening to other people. And just one of my things is that, two people falling in love and marrying each other and producing children is too unstable of a system to last, and it collapses over and over, and it, I don't think, produces the highest quality of human beings. And so my
I,
mission,
I, I understand not all marriages are happy,
well,
even
fifty
when most
percent
people
end.
practice
Fifty
marriage.
per-
But
a
but
fifty
but it's
percent
it's worse now. Everything is worse now when people don't practice marriage.
Well, the thing is that I'm saying is that the way we breed needs to be changed, and that this needs to be done. We need to separate sex from marriage. I mean, sex from reproduction and love from reproduction. We should not be basing reproduction based on infatuation with one another.
But
Or
how are you going to get people to do it your way?
Well, you have to, well, again, I'm not looking to make the whole world do it my way. I'm looking to make a small group that does it my way. And because they do it my way, they have more success. And so they have a disproportionate amount of power. And that's what
Who
I'm
are
doing.
these people who have done it your way?
Well, we know what happens the other way. We know that 50% of marriages collapse. We know that another 25% of those marriages are unhappy. And we know that
M-
it doesn't, non scientific breeding doesn't produce high quality humans, as we can see all across the world from the beginning of time. Um, After the Industrial Revolution, the quality of the human race plummeted even when we were practicing marriage. I mean, in the 1920s,
how do you know? I mean, how can you judge that the quality of the human race has deteriorated? How can you tell?
well, because everyone has sensed it, and that, in the 1920s, they were all fretting because of all these mentally ill people that were reproducing, even in marriage. Just because you're mentally ill, just because you're a drunk, doesn't mean you can't get married. I mean, plenty of drunks meet each other in bars and get married, and this idea that in the 1800s, everyone who got married was sober, sane, and wealthy is just not true. And it's you gotta think of a better system. It is much too important of a decision to be left to two human beings who who can get randomly pregnant at any time, at the most inopportune time, even if they're homeless. Um, it's just much too important of a decision to be left to that. And also, that is
Yeah,
just
so
not
you shame people. I mean,
shaming. People were
right
shamed in the
now, you can't
1850s.
even get people.
You think people weren't shamed about these things in the 1850s when people were getting disturbed about what was going on? You think people weren't shamed for being alcoholics or mentally ill or drunks or poor or whatever? People were shamed back then for doing those kinds of things.
Well, the point is that they need to be shamed more, and they're not even shamed at all now. That is my point.
Yes, but people,
At least
you can
in
only
all the
shame
olden days,
people.
they were shamed socially, and now they are the majority.
Okay, but you can only shame people when the majority of people want to shame you. The thing is that the majority of people started realizing, look, most people in America today believe in divorce because even if they don't get divorced, they still realize that just the alternative is horrible. And they don't want that, they don't want it for themselves and they don't want it for anyone else. You're not going to be able to shame people. You're not going to be able to shame people if more than 50% of the population is on their side.
Not
And
nonsense. Look at the propaganda they've been propagating for so long. I'm sure most people don't, are not liberals, but the media gets to tell.
no, most people in America believe in divorce. Most people in America are not going to tell
I'm
you.
not saying people shouldn't get divorced. I'm not banning divorce. I'm saying, yes, you can get divorced, but the fault will be apportioned. Don't think you're going to get away with, oh, it didn't just work out. It just didn't work out. It's not my fault. It's
Yes,
like,
but
at the very least, you
who
married
in
the wrong
America are
person.
going
So
to get?
the fault begins at 50-50, even with the most amicable divorce,
Who in
even if
America?
neither party wants to blame each other.
Who in America is going to be against no fault divorce when they all want it?
Well, you will just have to change their minds by using the media.
Okay, well, you're talking about changing people's minds, and then you come after me for saying, well, you can't change people's minds. I mean, first of all, you're trying to change the mass mind. You're trying to change millions of minds into accepting a system they don't want. And I'm just trying to convince a few people to breed scientifically. I think one is easier than the other.
Okay, please tell us about how one can breed
Not
scientifically.
based on love,
Uh,
not based on two random people meeting and falling in love. I'm talking about a programmed, systematic, scientific program for breeding with
okay, and
dire.
how would that work?
Well, you would have to have some kind of, first of all, you need a community that people are willing to be involved in. The thing is, once we have artificial wombs, this would be easier. But prior to that, you need to have some kind of community that people are willing to get involved in. And again, I'm not looking for 10 million people, Claire. I'm not looking for what you're looking for, where it's like everyone needs to be on board with my program. I would be happy if I had 10 births in such a program. I mean, I would be happy if I had one birth in such a program. I would consider it at least some kind of um, advancement. And
Okay, so are you going to tell us what kind of people would be most ideally suited
well, you want to
to
get people
be
with high IQ and good health, and then let's say that you want to breed um, people who are very athletic. You would find highly athletic people, and you would breed them, or you wanted people with
okay,
high.
so you're gonna get ideally you're gonna get Olympians, yes?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for mental abilities, you're going to get mathematicians. If you're looking for physical prowess, you're going to get Olympians. And the idea is to mix those two things
Okay,
together.
so you're gonna marry Olympians
Not
with
marry. No, nobody's
mathematicians.
getting married. No marriage. Not has nothing to do with marriage.
Okay. Okay, so you want pairings of I mean, you're saying they don't even have to have sex with each other, right? That's
No,
what
of
you
course, artificial insemination.
okay, so you've got so you want, um, egg donors and sperm donors to mix and match according to your, specifications.
Or
That's what you want. I mean, at least, just say that that's what you want. You want, the eggs of
yeah,
certain kinds
you
of
want to
women and
meet
the
an egg with
sperm
a
of certain
desire.
kinds of men.
Yes, and you wanted to have, like, pre-programmed. People are tested. People are put through rigorous tests, either mental or physical tests, and people are classified by their type. And then you say, okay, we want to amplify this type. We want to amplify the Olympian type of body structure. And so let's bring those two pairings together. And, yes, it's about classifying people and then straining out traits, just like we do in animals. I'm not doing anything different than I'm doing in animals. And if you want a strong draft horse, you breed a strong draft horse to a strong draft horse, and you get a strong draft horse. And I'm just saying, so we
Strong
want
what? Sorry?
a draft horse.
Okay.
You want
Uh-huh.
you want draft horses and race horses and children's ponies and all these different kinds of breeds of horse, and quarter horse and that horse and this horse.
Okay, but can we talk about humans now? About, well, how are
Okay,
you
well,
gonna find
it works
your
the same. So,
samples?
so we're talking about Olympians and mathematicians and dancers and people who are very sensitive and people who are not so
Sorry,
sensitive.
who's very sensitive?
Well, people. Let's say that you're very physically sensitive and you're able to pick up on, like, some people have a very acute sense of smell. Okay, and if you want to create people with a very acute sense of smell, you would breed people with acute senses of smell
Okay,
together. But
so you people that there are people who work in what perfumeries, I think it's
well, I mean,
called.
I'm just using it as an example, but let's say that you want to, okay, so you want to increase the human race's sense of smell overboard. Well, first you have to create a
There's a
bus.
special word for these people, right? What you
I don't
mean?
know. I don't know. The point is that if you want to increase the human race's sense of smell, you would first have to breed a race that has a very strong sense of smell, and then you could breed that in to other people or isolate the gene and genetically engineer it in. Lots of different things that you can do. If these traits are all the same, very acute sense of hearing. You want to increase the human race's sense of hearing. You want them to be able to hear. You can test for hearing. You can test for the ability to pick up sounds. Some humans can pick up more sounds than other humans. And you want a very, or just longevity, or strong, no, resistance to osteoporosis, resistance to cancer. Whatever it is that you want to strain out, you would do that through selective breeding, just like you do in animals.
And then who's going to look after these children?
It would be there would be a collective type of, it would be set up that there would be a facility or a group home or something like that where the children would be raised and people would take shifts.
But not by their parents. Poor
So
things.
what?
They'll be
So
so
I was raised by my
traumatized by
parents.
being
You're
sexually
acting like
abused.
no, please. Parents abuse their children all the time. The idea that having your parents in your life negates abuse is absurd. Absurd. That I mean, I'm done listening to people tell me that the only people that love you are your parents, and that's just not true. And if everything is on camera and you have 10 adults there, the idea that 10 adults are going to collectively come together and decide to rape children all in front of each other is
Well,
absurd.
they might be in child porn.
Where are you going to find 10 adults randomly from selected
Well, I
population, a
mean, if
random
I were a child abuser, I'd be targeting children's homes, wouldn't
so
I?
what? Yes, but if you were on camera, that wouldn't happen.
I guess you'll take them away from the cameras.
Well, then the children could report it, but parents that don't have any cameras in their house are more likely to do this than people who are on camera that have 10 other people monitoring them. Children get raped in not single parent, in double parent homes by their fathers. I mean, it's just like, it's rampant, it's horrible, and I just don't believe that in a facility where there's cameras everywhere and 10 adults to monitor each other, that there's going to be mass rape every day. Like, it just doesn't happen like that. In orphanages, it doesn't happen like that. And it's not like, you're acting like, 100% of children get raped in orphanages. And most people, Claire, most people, like 99, I don't know if it's 99, let's say 95% or 75%, let's say 75% to give you the highest number, are not raped. Like, most people, even in orphanages, most people are not raped in orphanages. It's
It's
rare.
people.
Most
Mm.
people are not raped in orphanages. Most orphans are not raped. Most
Have you
people
ever
are.
been fostered? Have you been in a care
Yeah, but
home?
most are not raped. Most children, most people have never been raped, Claire. The vast majority of people have never been raped. You're acting like this is some kind of like pandemic that's everywhere and ubiquitous and in every foster home and in every orphanage. It's not true. It's just not true.
Well, I remember
And
Carol
what's to
talking
stop? And
about
there's
attachment anxiety disorder.
well, I was supposedly diagnosed with that with my double parent in family. So, I mean, you could just, there's plenty of children that are diagnosed with attachment disorder because, they were, whatever, because their parents weren't perfect. And, it's like, this idea you're catastrophizing. You're catastrophizing and acting like 90% of children in foster homes are raped, and that's just not the case.
Well, you're just raising the probability of bad stuff happening to them. And
No, bad stuff
anyway, you
happens.
shouldn't
Bad
have
stuff.
children if you're not going to look after them.
uh,
I mean, it's just crazy to think that, oh, yeah, you've got a bit, you have sperm, it's going to impregnate someone's egg,
No, they need to be.
and you never
Uh,
see the thing ever. I mean, what kind of person are you to do this sort of thing?
somebody who knows that the old way of doing things doesn't work. Someone like me, the old way failed them. People from divorced homes, which is 50%. People from families where the two just were total genetic waste and decided to breed anyway, and they're very angry about being bred into a bad bloodline. And these types of people who the system failed them. I'm not expecting people who came from happy homes to do this.
So people like you.
Yes, people like me would be more likely to do this than someone from the divorced home, from the bad home, and that said, okay, well, it's just two adults that are in cahoots together are not safe for children to be around. You need to have a community where they can kind of mitigate each other and make sure that there's more input and that you know it's less abusive.
So what you're saying is that you don't actually trust yourself to be a father. You want somebody else to look after your
Well,
kid,
I would help
and
look
you think
after.
that's going to be better for your kid.
It would be better for my children to be raised in a communal setting than to be raised with me and my spouse, and it's too stressful and it's too much and I can't
Well,
get a
but
break.
okay, so you're basically ignoring the second part of parenting. It's not about the sex that produces the offspring, but the actual parenting that is the tough bit. And you're saying, I'm out of here. Somebody else
Well, but
do it for me.
most parents, 50% of parents say that too. I'm out of here. I'm not. They say I'm not dealing with this.
Okay,
I'm
so they should be shamed. These
okay. Well,
parents.
they can. You can't because nobody wants to shame anyone because they all believe.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, well, you can't carry on like this anymore because that will be the end of Western civilization
Yeah.
if
Well,
you.
I'm saying change the model in the way that you do it, and
So are you going to test drive your system before
of
you?
course you don't. Yes, because unlike
How are you
you,
going to test drive your system?
yes, I would test. Well, it would be naturally test driven because most people are not going to start out doing this. It would be a small group that actually did it. And, it's just you want to do it in a small group. It's not even that you want to do it in a small group. It's almost a small group is forced on upon you.
So you're saying they have to live in in a community
Well,
in
they don't
order to do
necessarily.
it, or not? Are you going to take over an apartment building or something?
Well, you
I
could take
mean,
over an apartment building to raise the children in a separate. People would have their own separate homes, and then the children would be raised collectively, and
what
and
does that mean? Sorry, collectively by whom?
by care workers that are paid to be there, and are monitored and who are vetted. And nobody vets parents. Nobody knows if you're a pedophile, breeding so that you get access to children. There's no vetting for parenthood. You can get vetted, get an FBI or a CIA background test for anyone. I got a background test for all my jobs and drug testing, and nobody drug tests parents. You can't drug test a mother to make sure that she's, you know, a, even if a woman is known to be a total drug addict, you can't stop her from having children.
Well, actually, I'm just reminded of something called ban. So, I think the tradition is that a couple is about to marry, so they are engaged, and then there's some kind of um, what is it? Let me just find it because I remember there's some notice put out so that people have a chance to object to the couple getting married. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Maybe it's banned with two N's. Hold on. Reading of bans, Church of England. Okay, it says most Church of England marriages require bans to be read out in church before the wedding can take place. So, what does this mean? Here's your essential guide to Church of England bans. Bans are an announcement in church of your intention to marry and a chance for anyone to put forward a reason why the marriage may not lawfully take place. Bans are an ancient legal tradition and have been read out every week in churches across the land for millions of couples over many centuries. After your forthcoming marriage is announced, the congregation may be invited to pray for you both. It can be quite special and moving to hear this, so go along if you can. Bans need to be read in the parish where each of you lives, as well as a church in which you are to be married, if that is somewhere else. You must have your banns read out in church for 3 Sundays during the 3 months before the wedding. This is usually done over 3 consecutive Sundays, but does not have to be. As well as being a legal requirement. Your band's readings are special public occasions when people in church hear of your intention to marry. It is an exciting and happy time, so you're welcome to invite your family and friends to hear your banns too, if you like. If there's not enough notice given for the banns to be read before the marriage is due to take place, or if one or both of you are British but do not live in England or Wales, the common license procedure needs to be used rather than banns. Okay, so basically, you need to announce it for 3 weeks before, and I guess for somebody to say, "Oh no, they can't marry because they're already married, or they're brother and sister, or their father and daughter, or mother and
Yeah,
son,
well,
or something like that."
yes, but I mean, if half your congregation has a drinking problem, what are they going to do? That, oh, well, she has a drinking problem, and so she can't get married. I mean, most people are not. Most people
Oh,
are not.
okay. I mean, okay. Okay. This is how I would do it. Only men and women of good character can get married. How about
Well,
that?
who decides? Well, the thing is, who decides that, and how do you
Okay.
control?
If you have I don't know. Maybe you need a reference or something. I don't know. I mean, this is the modern equivalent of it, isn't it? Like, I don't know of. Yeah. Okay. How about this? You announce, or an engagement is announced, and then people can say, "Oh, but he's mentally ill, or she's already married, or she's a crazy." So that can still be done in theory.
Okay,
Let's
yeah,
do it.
well, that's kind of a very haphazard and I would think inefficient way. First of all, most people don't have the courage to tell people they can't get married. And, you know, most people I don't think are going to intervene. What are they going to, oh, she's too fat? What are they going to say? What if she's just really obese and, it's just obviously genetic and that's bad for your heart and your liver and all these other organs? What are people going to tell? She's too fat
Okay,
to get.
if it's obviously unhealthy, then we're going to require a medical certificate saying,
So you're not going to allow obese people to get married.
well, if you're going to be like that, I mean, I wasn't even thinking of those things, but you're saying, oh, these heterosexual people, they just, randomly meet each other and randomly marry. And I'm saying, okay, I'll raise the standards if you want. And these are my
Okay, but
proposals.
no, you didn't answer the question. Would you forbid obese women from marrying?
I think there's a question of fertility for obese people, isn't there?
Okay, that you didn't answer the question. Are you not going to allow obese people to marry?
Um, well, I wasn't even thinking of doing that until, okay, they can marry. All right, they're going to marry, and then she's going to be sterile anyway. So no
No,
harm
not.
caused,
Plenty of obese
no kind of.
birth. Plenty of obese people give birth. That's absurd that all obese people are. You can't, Nick, Claire, you're being absurd. You can't rely upon the sterility of obese people to prevent them from procreating. The point is that you're not being intellectually honest in saying that whether you would allow obese people to marry or not.
Well,
And
maybe
okay, in
people.
my
Okay,
system,
how about this? How about this? Before you're allowed to marry, both of you have to have a DNA test to see that you might not, be related to each other after all.
okay, yeah, well, DNA test, but yeah, but there's no standard.
Okay.
If there's
That's
no
it. That's
standard,
it.
if
That's
there's
my solution to this problem you keep talking about. That's my
okay,
solution.
what? Okay, and then what if she has the DNA for obesity? You're not going to allow her to get
No,
married? Is
no,
that
no, no. If they're related, if they're,
no?
they
We're
might
talking
actually.
about people with. We're talking no. You refuse to answer it because you know you're getting stuck here. The thing is that your system would. Okay, in my system, obese people can get married. I'm not stopping people from getting married. I'm just saying that somebody on the side better be doing something to elevate some aspect of the human race and some degree. I mean, somebody has to be selectively breeding human beings, so somebody do it. But you know, now you're talking about interferences and people getting up in church and saying you can't get married because you're too fat and all these different
No,
kinds
no,
of
no.
things.
I mean, for the church, that would be, oh, they're already married to someone else, or the within the forbidden degrees of consanguinity. I
We're
suppose
talking
that would
about
be
no,
the
no, no, no. That's not going to stop drunks and drug addicts and obese people and mentally deficient people and unemployed people and all these other different kinds of people from getting married. That's not going to stop any of that.
well, you can actually sort of talk about marriage in a different way. It's like, from now on, we're going to treat marriage with respect, and no more no fault divorce. Um, um, Fathers are going to get a DNA test whenever their wives give birth. Um, the engaged couple will have to have a DNA test to see if they haven't got any genetic diseases, and then they'll be allowed to marry. There you go. That's nice and simple. With,
Okay,
with, with,
well,
with
that's not going.
technology currently available.
Okay, well, that's just not going to, stop dysgenic decline because, people, who are obese alcoholics and have diabetes, can still get married and have children.
Well, maybe, when the bands are read, somebody can say, oh, hey, I think I know so and so is, an alcoholic, or,
Yes, but
a
I think that
crackhead, or
yes,
whatever.
but most Claire, if you're looking for the community to rise up and tell people they can't get married, and I don't think most heterosexuals have that in them because they don't want anyone telling them they can't get married. What if what if okay, what if someone stands up and says you have a drinking problem and you can't get married? Like someone else who has a drinking problem might not like that because they want to get married. Not everyone with a drinking problem is just going to stand back and say, "Well, fine, I'm not getting married because I have a drinking problem." And they're not going to appreciate people breaking up marriages because someone has a drinking problem.
Well, not breaking up marriage, preventing them from ever taking place. I mean, it
Well,
might
yeah,
be,
I mean,
okay,
breaking
okay, this is a kind of, the most auspicious kind of marriage would be, um, the couple love each other, they're both healthy, they don't have a family history of mental illness or birth defects or whatever, and they've met each other's parents, both, you know, they're all they're coming to the wedding, that there's no bad stuff going on, and then it would be, and then you can classify all kinds of weddings. It's like, oh, you've only got your two witnesses. Well, your marriage is still legal because we can't find anything physically wrong with you, but you know, but uh, we'll be on notice if there's any difficulties in your marriage, you know, that kind of thing. And then you can kind of profile all these people. It's like, oh, it's going to fail because they haven't got parental approval, and no family support, and or oh, they're unsuitably matched because they come from a different class or different you know religion, or whatever. I mean, if you want to do this sort of thing, I can do it. I can think of ideas to do it, to make it, you know, to give more hoops for people to jump through. And I think paradoxically, people will actually want to do it because they suddenly realize that, it's something the government takes seriously. It's kind of like Adam and Eve. I mean, Adam and Eve were just happy, just playing around in the Garden of Eden until God said, don't you be eating from my tree of knowledge and tree of
I know, but
life.
why did he even put it
And,
there?
and then suddenly there was nothing more that they wanted to do
It,
than to
it's
do
like
that.
it's like leaving an open candy jar around children and saying don't eat out of it. I mean, no parent would ever do that to their child. I mean, I have
Unless a parent actually were, being an agent provocateur.
which is horrible. Why would you, And then to punish them, I would never leave cookies out in front of my children and say, don't eat them. Especially my young children. Adam and Eve were naive, innocent people that didn't know the difference between good and evil. And,
But they
they
wanted to.
well, the thing is that she was tricked. I mean, if a predator came into the house and told my children to eat the cookies, I would have an understanding that my children are mentally deficient at such a young age and don't know the difference between right and wrong. And, another adult came in and told them to eat the cookies, and they did, and I just wouldn't sentence my children's children to a life of suffering.
Well, the point is that, that Satan is just there to tempt people into defying God. That's his role. That's his
Yeah,
job
well, I mean,
specification, which I explained to you.
there's no need for that. I just, this
No,
is very,
no, no. Look, if it is the case that the whole purpose of our lives is to be in an examination hall, to show our ability to distinguish between good and evil, then there must be evil for us to say, no, we don't do
yeah,
that.
I know. This is very heterosexual. This is what heterosexuals
Why
do.
is it heterosexual?
Because
I
most
think gay
heterosexuals,
people can understand it.
no, they can't. I didn't think most gay people would set up this whole kind of system of testing people. And the thing is that the Mormons
Oh,
say,
rubbish! You're
look,
the one who you. It was your idea. You were saying, "Oh, look at these heterosexuals. They just randomly fuck after randomly meeting." And
they
I'm
would
saying,
set up a system.
okay. I'll make them jump through these hoops before
No,
they can marry
that's
and have
different. No,
sex.
that's
And
a
now
totally
you're
different.
accusing me of it.
No, that's a totally different thing. I'm just saying that only a heterosexual would act like the Abrahamic God and make that kind of system for people to live in, and knowing full well that it was all going to go wrong for humans. And a gay man just wouldn't do something like that. It's just not in their nature generally. I know probably one or two of them would do something like that, but no, no. The thing is that the Mormon Satan, who would represent homosexuality, obviously Satan would be the homosexual, if anything. And in Mormonism, he just wanted everyone to have a nice life and to have no free will and to get through life nicely and to get into paradise. And God said, no, I want them to go through all this, and I want them to have to suffer all this. Like, yeah, of course the gay man would want things to be nice for everyone. And, heterosexuals just don't want things to be nice for anyone.
No, no. I mean, we know the bargain between God and man is this
I
thing
this whole
that
bargain.
everybody actually instinctively understands, and
I
you're being
know.
satanic when you reject it and you think you know better, and you're just laughing.
No, not everyone understands this, and some people find it very frustrating and insensitive and useless. And I find the Abrahamic God's whole exercise for the human race to be rather useless and cruel.
Well, you don't
And
know any. Why is it useless? It's got us quite far.
no, it has not in a good way, not in any kind of, way that has been great for humanity. It's been very unhappy for humanity, the whole ride. And it was just, if this is, I mean, if that's what's going on, then God is a total fucking asshole. And, I'd rather burn in hell than worship him. I'm not going to worship a deity like that. I'm not going to worship a deity like that.
A deity that gives us the chance to learn the difference between good and evil, and
Well, I would have
in theory
preferred,
and
I
in
prefer the
practice,
Mormon
what's wrong with
Satan.
that?
I prefer the Mormon Satan, who just said, just make everyone good and let them all get to paradise, and that's about it. I mean, the Mormon Satan,
Sorry, the Mormon Satan is. Tell us about the Mormon Satan, because I haven't
the
heard
Mormon,
of this
the
thing.
Mormon Satan, the Mormon Satan did not want anyone going to hell, did not want humanity to suffer, did not want humanity going through all this. So he said, just take away their free will, give them happy, upright, clean lives, and let them get into heaven. And the Mormon God and Mormon Jesus, Mormon Jesus said no, they need free will and they need to go through all this testing and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm on the side of the Mormon Satan, not on the Mormon Jesus.
So basically, the Mormon Satan is kind of uh, I can I can hardly.
He just wants
Okay, so he's just saying everybody should be has a reasonable chance of getting to heaven. Is that what the Satan is saying?
he just wanted everyone to have a good life and to get into heaven. That's all he wanted. That's what he said should be the system, that humans should live happy lives and make it into heaven and just make them good. And that's it. And Jesus said, no, we need to allow them to be bad if they want to be bad. We need to allow them to go to hell if they want to, if whatever. And, for what? It's not, God didn't need humans. It's not like this is some kind of need. He doesn't need to be worshipped by us. He wanted to be worshipped by us, but it's like, well, it reminds me of my mother in that you give birth to a child, and then if it doesn't love you, you torment it. You know what I mean? Like, it's that it well, love me of your free will or be tormented. Well, maybe you don't have the type of personality that people love. Maybe you don't have a very lovable personality.
So how do your siblings? Okay, she's only got two sons.
No,
One is autistic.
she has a son and a daughter after me.
Do they get on with her?
Yes, well, they're Jehovah's Witnesses, and she treated them better.
I see. So it is possible to get on with your mother.
Well, I mean, maybe if you're a Jehovah's Witness and isolate yourself from the
Would I
world.
get on with your mother?
I don't know if you would get on with her. I don't think that she would be interested in. No, you
In
wouldn't
secular
because
Quranis.
no, you wouldn't get along with her because Jehovah's Witnesses are so disgusting. It's the most disgusting thing I ever saw them do. When they go to the door and they're handing you magazines, you know that they will. If you say, "Well, I have a magazine for you," they refuse to take it. Who the fuck? Who the fuck offers their literature and then says, "I refuse to take yours"?
Um, do they really? Is that a rule?
Yes, that they're not allowed to take other people's literature at the door. I've
Well, I
seen it.
suppose it's like you're only there to preach, not to be preached at.
Yeah, well, there's a two-way street there, and my mother wouldn't read your book. So, no, I don't think you would get along with her because she would refuse to read your book.
Well, I
And
wouldn't give it to her because, well,
okay,
I
but she
wouldn't.
would refuse to buy it, even if if you tried to convince her, she would refuse to look at it, and she probably, she would refuse to look at it. She wouldn't come on your show or anything like that, and she just would refuse to look at your information.
Well, what you might want to come on my show to complain about you.
No, but she would. I'm telling you, you wouldn't get along with her because she would refuse to look at your information and would just be.
Ignore me.
Yeah, she would be intellectually dishonest and only read what she's allowed to read and nothing more.
Yeah, some Jews are a bit like that.
Well, some, yes. I know that, Judas Fly taught, I know Orthodox Jews, yes, they don't allow their congregations to read anything. And if you want to read a secular book for school, you have to get permission from the rabbi. And you have to, just to read Plato's Republic, you need you know, and you're not even allowed to have a statue of a snake inside your room because that's idolatry. And yeah, I know, and that's very intellectually bankrupt. I mean, if you can't read other people's literature without keeping your convictions, then there's something wrong with your religion.
Well, I know the Jews feel particularly vulnerable because they must be thinking all the time, we're so few and there's so many of them. And, we're sure lots of Jews would just like to assimilate into the wider world and we must protect
Yes,
our
but well,
numbers. And
then don't form a religion that people can't look at anything else, or else it's going to break their faith. I mean, that says something. I'm not scared to look at anything. Okay, I'm not scared to look at a single thing on this earth. I will read absolutely anything that comes my way. And that's,
You haven't read secular
well,
Quranism.
I would, and I'm not scared of it, and I talk to you, and I don't avoid you, and like Orthodox Jews tell Judas Fly to, avoid you, and you have more respect for them than anything I promote, and they won't even allow Judas Fly to talk to you.
Yeah, because they say my views are heretical.
Yeah, well, why are they so scared? What's so weak about
Because
their?
what because you don't know what I've been saying to them. I'm just saying, look, look, Jews, your Torah has 36 capital offenses, and if you're not
So, and
punished
how
for,
many Orthodox Jews are breaking any of the 36 capital offenses?
well, it's not so much them as the
Yeah, but they don't care. The
the
only
other
people,
ones.
well, the only, the thing is that the other ones don't care anything about
Yeah, they
it.
don't care. But what I'm saying is that obviously the Quran is the better book because it's got fewer restrictions, but it's from the same God.
Yeah, but it also
And
makes you
they have no
like,
answer to that. And I said,
well,
the
yes,
Quran
but
doesn't have 36 capital offenses.
okay,
You
if
have no,
you're the
and you don't even want a Torah theocracy. You
okay, if
haven't got a
you're
leg to stand on.
if you if if you believe in stringency, you're not going to take the Quran because it's not stringent.
No, but
So,
the point is, no, if you were a rational
if you
Jew,
want stringency, look, if you believe idolatry is wrong and that there's no place for it in this world, you're not going to choose the Quran.
no. The thing is, I'm saying to them that Jews should be like unto the nations by
No, but you
converting
allow it. That's
to
tolerance.
Islam. And if they did, then
That's
they actually will be fulfilling their purpose.
you're preaching tolerance, and I don't think they want
No, it's
tolerance.
not even tolerance. It's sort of like, well, if God exists,
He wouldn't allow
uh,
idolatry, and Islam allows
I
idolatry.
mean, obviously, nobody. Okay, you seem to be saying that the Quran is permits idolatry. I mean,
It
and
does.
it
You
doesn't.
say it does.
It discourages it,
Okay, so
but
what?
it
It's
doesn't punish it
saying
with death,
discourages
and
murder.
that's why people would prefer it.
Okay, it's like saying it
It gently
discourages.
discourages it.
Okay, well, if that's like saying it discourages murder. Idolatry is probably worse than murder, and who cares if it's discouraged if it's allowed? I mean, discouraging
Well,
murder
actually,
doesn't.
Rabbi Mizrahi says idolatry is worse than murder
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is that if you
because
believe,
idolatry means you sacrifice your olam haba, your afterlife. While if you just murdered somebody and you were executed, you would still have your olam haba. But I don't know how true this is because under
yeah, idolatry is worse than murder. So just it you
because
know.
you sacrifice your afterlife.
Okay, well, you just don't believe idolatry is that bad. So
No. What I'm saying is
no,
that
you don't. Okay, you don't believe it's that bad. You don't take it that seriously, or
no.
what?
I just take it literally. I'm saying it incurs the death penalty, as does murder.
No,
So
I no, idolatry does not incur the death penalty under Islam.
no, of course it doesn't, because chapter 2, verse 256 protects the freedom
Okay,
of
well,
belief.
what about
I
people that
see any
don't want to
sensible
follow?
person who believes in God would choose the easier version
No, they wouldn't. Maybe
of
they
God's
maybe they
laws.
want. I don't know, Claire. Maybe they do believe that idolatry is worse than murder, and they just don't want to deal with it, and they have more
No,
conviction.
no. Okay.
You
No,
lack
what
conviction. You lack conviction.
no, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just
Yes,
saying if
you
you were
lack
a
conviction. You don't
rational
believe it's that
Jew
bad. You don't
and you
believe
were
it's
finding
tolerable.
following the Torah difficult, you go for the lighter.
They're not finding it difficult, and nobody wants to tolerate idolatry. If they're a stringent person, they're not going to want that.
No, I think the reason why they won't do it is because they want to stay Jews, because they can't bear the thought that they've been wrong for so many centuries. It's the same with the Christians. They can't bear to think that they've been, injected from infancy with this horrible toxic rubbish, which they, half believe and it's it's very difficult for them to accept, and it's the same thing for Jews and Muslims too, because I put it to Jews that the correct thing for you to do is to convert to Islam, and in that way be light unto nations. But of course they won't. But but they can't argue against that, because it's like, well, even if you all did it, you would be light unto nations by showing
No,
Gentiles.
because they wouldn't eliminate
I
idolatry.
know they won't do that, but I'm just saying, if they
Okay,
did, they wouldn't
but
be going against God's wishes.
the point is you tolerate idolatry, and some people just don't want to do that.
I don't think they really care that much because of the
Some people
problem of
do
human
care.
idolatry.
Okay,
But
well,
but it's
Jehovah's
also
Witnesses
their
wouldn't allow any idolatry.
identity,
If the
which they
Jehovah's
think is superior to the Muslim identity.
if
It's
if if
snobbery.
if the Jehovah's Witnesses believed in government, they wouldn't allow idolatry, and some people would have more respect for that.
Sorry, what was this about Jehovah's Witnesses?
If they believed in government, if they did, they wouldn't allow idolatry, and people might have more respect for that.
Jehovah's Witnesses, do they allow? Well, they are idolaters, being
No,
Christian.
how they no. If okay, look, if they were in control of the government and believed in government, they would not allow anything that they would consider idolatry.
Okay, well, they're not as powerful as Muslims.
You're missing the point that people might have more respect for them because they actually stand for something.
Well, we don't know.
Okay,
We
but
don't.
the thing is that people might have more respect for Jews and the Noahide laws because it actually stands for something and stands its ground and stands fast and says, no, we believe this is totally wrong and corrupt and we're not accepting it. And people might have more respect for that.
Well, we're just well, that's just speculation.
Okay, well, maybe that's why people are converting to the Noahide laws instead of Islam because they would prefer something that actually stands its ground and isn't wishy washy.
Well, I don't know of any significant number
Well,
of no hides.
okay, well, there are, but you just accuse them of being Islamophobic. But maybe the reason they're Islamophobic is because they don't want to. They want something that is stringent, and they don't want, something that just doesn't meet the requirement.
I think it's just snobbery. It's
No,
like,
but
well, they're used to
maybe they want
Jews.
something
They're used to
stringent.
worshipping a Jew, and they look at Muslims who are brown and come from shithole countries, and they can't bear the thought of adopting that kind of
Yeah, well,
culture.
maybe they just
I think
say that
it's just that.
it's not as stringent. They have holidays, which they're not supposed to have. They do lots of things they're not supposed to do. And they're not very, they don't really follow their own principles. They don't follow Sharia 100% in their own countries. And maybe people just want nothing to do with losers who
Well, I'm
allow
saying,
idolatry.
well, hidden idolatry is the problem, and I think hidden idolatry is
You're a
more
hidden
power
idolater
than
by allowing
hypocrisy.
idolatry. You're a hidden idolater.
No, I'm just going by the book, which allows people to believe what they want, which
Okay,
must
well,
be freedom
some
of
people.
belief, which I'm sure would be more acceptable to more people than executing people for idolatry and blasphemy. I mean, it's obvious, which would be more popular. A
Okay, just
system
because
that
some
doesn't execute idolaters and blasphemers, you know, as opposed to one that does.
Okay, well, you're just not a stringent person and you don't take your values that strongly. And for somebody like me who takes their values very strongly, I wouldn't want anything to do with that.
Well, I'm thinking of what most people would do. What most people, if they really believed in God, they would
Okay,
just
well,
do
those who don't,
what God
those,
wants them to do instead of thinking, oh, well, I don't like those Muslim types.
well, because it's not the real McCoy, it's not the full deal, it's a ripoff,
Well,
it's
I,
just
I,
not.
I think it's authentic enough for most people's purposes. I mean, considering there's so many different kinds of Jews.
So many
So
different Muslims too.
Yeah, and the thing is, what should happen really is that each country adopts their own version of Sharia, and then everybody will just have a new identity and a new legal system and a new culture, and it will be more eugenic than the current one, because more people will be shamed into marrying before having children. Gosh. Lovely chirping.
Yes, they're chirping. They're chirping. Anyway, Claire, I'm gonna go. I don't want
Okay.
to. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, so.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Okay. I'll
I'm
talk to you
glad
soon.
your thing is going well. At least I think I'm glad.
Yes, I'm feeling better.
All right. Well,
All
take
right.
care, Vincent.
Yeah.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Oh, I see that Stephen James has said that David Irving has died. Well, my sympathies and condolences to his family. What information can I find about it that I can read out? Actually, I have a stream that I can dedicate to, well, that I haven't. So I'll talk about the David Irving stuff on that stream, which has been scheduled. So thank you for letting me know. I'm going to have a bit of a break and look up the news and talk to you soon. Thank you for letting me know, Stephen.